to be looking in the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter number 3. And we're going to read a couple of verses together. And I think Johnny's got them up on the board there. Let's stand together. And let's read them with one another, all right? Daniel chapter number 3. And we'll start with verse number 19. Then was Nebuchadnezzar, no, let's see, that's not right. 23, yeah. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound, into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. The Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast three men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. You can be seated. May God bless the reading of His Word. We are looking at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and I've been talking to you about the importance of walking with Jesus. And every night I've said the same thing, that what we want for you more than anything is we want for you to walk with Jesus. We want for you to know Jesus and know what it is like day in and day out to have Jesus in your life, to live for Him and to love Him. And we're looking at the example of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And we've been looking at really what it takes to walk with Jesus and looking at some of the characteristics of their life. Now tonight we're going to deal with this last part of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they followed Jesus even when things went bad. So, we have a saying around here that, it can't get any worse, but I want you to know it can always get worse. And for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it did. It went from them standing there and bravely standing up to the king to them being thrown into the fire. Now, somebody tell me, talk back, raise your hand right here, okay, if you've got the answer. What happens if you get thrown into the fire? All right, Rex. You get burned, all right? And that's what you expect to take place, right? And that's what everybody else thought was going to happen. Now remember, the king had given Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego the option when the music played that if they would just bow down, that they would forget everything and they would go about business as usual. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we don't even have to think about this. We're not careful to answer you, king, in this matter. Our God whom we serve, He is able to deliver us from the fire. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not bow before your image, nor serve the image which you have set up. So they have made their decision, all right, that they would rather burn in the fire than bow to the king's God. And they're just trusting God at this moment. So the king has them thrown into the fire. We looked at it last week, that the men that took them up to throw them into the fire, they got close to that furnace. Just the heat coming off of that furnace killed those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they are thrown down into the fire. After a while, the king gets up and he looks down there and he begins to ask his counselors and the men around some questions. He said, didn't we throw three guys down here? And they said, yes. He said, well, I see four of them walking. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Now, I just want to point out a couple of things to you tonight about this. Number one, you can only say this. This is a miracle taking place in the fire, right? Now, what everybody expected to happen, what the king expected to happen, was that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were going to be burned up in the fire. He was going to go over and look down into that furnace, and he was going to see their bodies, and he was going to make a point to all the kingdom that you better not go against the word of the king. But he is surprised when he looks down there, because there's no reasonable explanation why Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are not being consumed in the fire. There's no explanation. Now, some people will say this. They will say they don't believe this record of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when you ask them why they don't believe it, they'll say, because there's no rational explanation. But I want to say to you, there is an explanation. And the explanation is this. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't get burned up in the fire because God. Jesus was walking with them in the midst of the fire. And you can read the last part of this story, and they come up out of that fiery furnace, and the Bible says that their coats are not burned, their hats are not burned, their hair is not singed. They don't even have the smell of smoke on them. Now, what causes that is simply this. Jesus had walked with them in the midst of the fire. Now, they didn't get burned because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were special. The reason they didn't get burned is because the one they were walking with was special. Jesus was walking with them in the midst of that fire. Now, if you're going to have to be thrown into the fire and you got to go with someone, I'd say go with Jesus every time, right? Walk with Jesus every time. And look, I've not had to go through those physical fires, and I hope you never have to experience anything like that. But I want to tell you, I walked through a lot of circumstances with the Lord. And Jesus has always been faithful. He was faithful to these boys. He's faithful to us. And I want to tell you, He'll be faithful to you as well. And so there was this miracle that takes place in the fire. And you have to look at the man that they're walking with. Now Nebuchadnezzar looked at him and said, there's something about this fourth one. Now that's Shadrach, that's Meshach, and Abednego. But there's four of them down there. And he said the fourth one, there's something about him. He looks like the very Son of God. He don't look like, what Nebuchadnezzar is saying is he don't look like us. He don't look like them. There's something completely different about him. He looks like the Son of God. Now, remember all the way back at the beginning of this story, what was it that Nebuchadnezzar was doing? He was setting that statue up. That was his form of God. Everybody had to bow down to that, and it was Nebuchadnezzar saying, "This is what God looks like. This is the form that we're going to worship." Now he's looking down in the fire, and he's saying this: "It's not my statue. It's that man down there in the middle of the fire. That fourth man. He looks like the Son of God." You know, when we want you to walk with Jesus, we don't want you to walk with Jesus with this understanding that Jesus is a good man. He is a good man. That Jesus is a prophet. He is a prophet. But we want you to walk with Jesus because we know this truth about Him. He is the Son of God. He is God come in flesh. And if He would walk with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I want you to know He will walk with us. And He will walk with you. And the most important thing that you will know in this life is this fact. Does Jesus walk with you? And if Jesus walks with you, I want to promise you this. You can face whatever comes your way. What is it that makes the difference in the life of Christians? What makes the difference is the presence of Jesus. All right? It's not what we do. It's not who we are. It's whose we are. We belong to Him. We are His children. We are His people. And He enjoins Himself. He joins Himself to us. He makes us His very own. Do you know if you're saved tonight? Do you know what God says about you? God says He's very interested in what's going on in your life. He knows every detail of your life. He never closes His eyes in slumber. Do you know what that means? That means He's always watching us. He's always listening to us. He's always part of our life, and He's always there for us. That's why we say to you all the time, this is what we want for you. We want you to live for God. We want you to live for Jesus. We want you to walk with Him. When we get to heaven and we meet Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they're sharing their testimony of what it was to be in that fire. Do you understand that what they're going to say to us is this? That this is what made the difference? The fact that Jesus met them in the fire. Now, they weren't sure that Jesus was going to meet them. They were willing to die if they had to. But in the midst of all that, God Himself comes and meets them at their most difficult point. And I want to promise you this tonight. God will meet you as well. God will meet you in your difficult times, in your hard times. Now, it won't be long, and the school year will be half over. Just a little over a month, and the school year will be half over. And that's a cause for rejoicing, right? But I want to ask you this. Already this school year, have you encountered any difficulties? You encountered any hard times? Not everything's been good, right? Some of the experiences have have been difficult. And you know, the next half of the school year, you're going to have some difficulties as well. And if you're going to have difficulties, and we all are, what we want for you is to walk with Jesus. And we want for you to know that Jesus will walk with you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego committed themselves to God. And when they committed themselves to God, this is what God did. God committed himself to them. You know, the Bible tells us in the book of Hebrews, draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Now, what that means is this. If I will move in God's direction, God will move in my direction. If I will reach out for God, God will reach out for me. And I want to tell you, we all need to be doing that, but I want for you to do that. I want for you to reach out for God. I want you to draw nigh to God and trust the Word of God. That if God, with His own Word and His own promise, says to us that if you will draw near to Him, that He will draw near to you. Trust Him to do that. See if He won't do that. Now, tonight I'm going to ask you to bow your heads with me for a few moments. I want to ask you tonight, are you walking with Jesus? We've been talking for several weeks about walking with Jesus. Are you walking with Him tonight? And if you're not walking with Him, do you want to walk with Him? Do you want to know tonight that Jesus is walking with you? That Jesus is near to you? Now, if that's something you don't know tonight, but you want to know that, won't you just raise your hand tonight and say, yes, I want to know that. All right, we see your hands. Yeah, I want to know that tonight. All right, we see your hands. All right, you put your hands down. You put your hands down. Now look, if you raised your hand and you really want to know that tonight, while every head's bowed and every eye's closed, I want you just to stand up. All right, stand up. I want you just to slip out. If somebody needs to get by you, just let them out. Just come up here with me for just a moment, all right? If that's something you want to do tonight. If you want to talk to Jesus and commit yourself to following Jesus tonight, will you do that? All right, we're going to close right here in just a second. Now, if you raised your hand tonight and that's something that you really need to do, when we get done and we start to go out, I want you to come talk to me just a minute, all right?